and Shared Services Committee for the month of March. We have a packed agenda today, and we are going to start that with the annual comprehensive financial report, which Mr. Klein is here tonight to present it for us. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Okay.
This is Mr. Stankley.
I'm actually Jerry
I'm
Stankley.
sorry.
Mr. Klein passed away on January 13th, 1987. So, but we hear it all the
God
time.
bless him. May he rest in peace. But thank you for joining us tonight.
It's not a problem. Can I?
Yes, it's all yours
First of all,
now.
I'm very happy to be here. My name is Jerry Stankley. I'm a partner in the public accounting firm of Samuel Klein and Company. I've been doing municipal, governmental, school board audits, fire districts, sewer authorities since sometime in January 1980. So, and I started out in a very small firm, and we worked our way up to a bigger firm, then merged into a real big firm. And so I've been there since 1998. So
You've been around the block a few times.
I have, yeah. And every client, it gets treated with, the same, or whether it's a little tiny place or a big place, you get the same audit, okay? So basically, we're appointed by the board, okay, to give an opinion on the financial statements, okay? We're answerable to the board, okay? And I'd say it's one of the few, I think, positions that actually answers directly to the board, okay? And we performed the audit for the fiscal year ended June 30th of 2024, okay? And the audit was done sometime between the middle of the summer and concluded it, I think, right before Christmas. Different commitments we have, it was kind of spread out a little bit, and I don't like to send too many people from my office into the building together because of social reasons, okay? They get more done when they're alone than when there's a group of people in the basement over there at the building. So basically what we do is we perform the audit, okay? And what happens is that management, which is Laura and the super, present us, and the finance office, present us with the records, okay? Bank statements, general ledgers, cash receipt reports, expenditure reports, anything finance related, okay? Payroll reports, okay? Payroll registers, okay? It's all software now. It's not really, a stack of reports this high. Okay, so basically what we do is we perform an audit based on auditing standards that are promulgated by the auditing profession, by the Government Accounting Office of the federal government, and because all government agencies, which you are required to follow GAO requirements, and also New Jersey Department of Education. Okay, so we have a bunch of different hats that we have to follow. So, but they're all pretty common procedures. Okay, so we start our audit procedures by preparing samples, okay, of expenditures as well as payroll that we want to test. Okay, but it's a little deeper than that. We kind of do things in a certain progression. Okay, first we want to get the student activity fund records done, okay, which we don't spend a lot of time on, but it's one of, the high school has some serious money going through it. So we try to get those done so they get back to the schools, to the kids, so that when the kids get there. So we get that out of the way. Then we prepare our payroll sample. Again, it's all done based on random samples. It's nothing magical. It can't be what they call a haphazard sample, or let's pick on the nurses this week or the teachers. It's all done in statistical method. You might have, I don't know, 30,000 transactions during the year. So we select a sample of those, and we don't discriminate in terms of, if it comes up in the random numbers, we pick it. We don't say, oh, we already picked her, but we'll pick him or what. No, it's all done just by a process, okay? So what we do with the payroll is we make sure that everyone that comes up in the sample, and that their base pay is proper. And again, every one of them is a transaction. So we might pick someone the April 15th pay, okay? But we make sure that their base pay is proper. If there's any extra pay, we also verify the documentation that, for example, class coverage, extra period, sports fees, student activity advisors, all the extra stuff. So that stuff is all what we test and make sure that it's done. And also too, with regards to everyone else, the bigger money is in the education side in terms of that everything's paid in accordance with the collective bargaining agreements, as well as where there is no bargaining agreement, where there is an authorization from the board, a contract for one of your management area people. So we got good results in that area. And by the way, the system, and God rest his soul, the guy that passed away recently, he had, over the last several years, from my experience, dealing with him was, he had developed that whole department into, a pretty good, a department in terms of having a real good audit trail. Okay, because we only worry about audit trails, and everybody should worry. In other words, if I ask for, look, can you get me this? Boom, it appears. Can we get this? Boom, it appears. So we try to make sure that we test enough so that we get a good feeling that the payroll is being properly administered. We had no problems in that area. Okay, then we deal with expenditures. Okay, and basically, again, you write a lot of checks during the year. Again, random sample, first check of the year, last check of the year. Take the difference. If there was 4,000 checks written, we prepare a sample based on that. Again, all random numbers, okay? And so what we look for there is to make sure that the expenditures are all properly documented, that they're charged to the correct line item of the budget. That's important. Well, documentation is critical, but line items now, because now everybody at every level of government is looking at probably every one of your line items, okay? All that's done electronically as well. So we make sure that the proper line items are charged. Make sure that it's cut off with respect to the correct fiscal year. So you may have bills paid in July and August, that relate to June 30th and prior. Those are called accounts payable. That's set up properly. The other thing is, important too, you're in compliance with the public school contracts law. So if something had to be bid, if it was over X amount of dollars, it was properly bid. If it was required to get quotes, there was proper quotes. Well, again, all properly documented. And in this day and age, the districts that I work on participate in a lot of cooperative purchasing agreements, state contract, Ed Services of New Jersey, and there's some other ones up in North Jersey that they cooperate, and there's some national ones. So it's very difficult to violate the bid law in any district nowadays. And I know you have a lot of people, a good human infrastructure in the building that kind of, monitors that and makes sure that that doesn't happen. So good results from expenditures. So payroll was good, expenditures were good. Major important, it's technical, but, you just got to know as a board member, whether it's here or a social organization or whatever, the general ledgers as presented, okay, which is what we use when we start filtering through the numbers to translate them to the audit report. General ledger for cash, okay, ties to the bank reconciliations. Okay, just accept it. Okay, if you work in business, you know what I'm talking about, but that's critical. In fact, that's even more prominent than everything else. So that means actually that if the bank reconciliation agrees to general ledger, that means there's a very reasonable chance that all the transactions got captured within each fund. If you have a general fund, special revenue fund, a debt service fund, now you have capital projects fund, which is a temporary one, and you also have the food service fund and the Falcon Care and early childhood. So all those funds were properly administered, okay? And by the way, a lot of money goes to those bank accounts, and it's all properly accounted for. I mean, like to the penny. That's how it's been. So we verify that information as well. So what happens is, we then take that information and translate it into a document, fixed document. There's two documents that you get there. One is the audit report, which is actually the annual comprehensive financial report. That is actually the board's document. The only thing inside that document that belongs to us is our opinion. Okay. Now, our opinion is, again, you pay us to give you an opinion about the financial statements, okay, that they're presented fairly and properly. So based on all of our good audit results, okay, we have an unmodified opinion. In the old days, which I'm from, they used to be called a clean opinion or an unqualified opinion. So your opinion is unmodified. If your opinion was modified, I would have been here a lot sooner, because if you get a modified opinion, the Department of Ed has the right to send a monitor in to monitor your operations, okay, at your expense, okay? And you don't want that. And you were never anywhere close to that, okay? So basically, we have an independent auditor's report that, okay, so management's responsibility presents us with the financials. We do our thing. We go through everything. We give our opinion. Our responsibility is to give an opinion. Now, our opinion is, again, unmodified, okay? And that the financial statements present fairly in accordance with the acceptable accounting. So we're dealing with auditing standards as well as accounting standards. So they're presented, we did the audit in accordance with all the different auditing standards, and the financial statements are presented in accordance with the accounting standards, okay? And there's three different types of accounting contained within this document. One of them is your basic financials, which is your internal information that I'll get to. Then there's one that's called GAAP, which converts your basic financials to GAAP because, as you're aware, the 19th and 20th state aid payments don't come in until July. Under the accounting rules, the state does not have an accounts payable set up to us or any other district, and therefore we can't set up an accounts receivable and recognize the income. So it kind of distorts the picture, okay? But it's required, okay? Then the other piece is a, what's called a district-wide financial statement that takes things like depreciation, unused sick pay, unused vacation pay, and these monstrous numbers called pension and health benefits, okay? They are, and you'll see in the report, enormous numbers, but they're actuarially determined, okay? It's this thing that 20 years ago, a bunch of people were sitting in a room, probably having a good time saying, hey, what are these government entities on the hook for? Okay, so they decided to implement these two accounting standards, which measures post-retirement health benefits, which there's a lot of documentation in here about it. I mean, the purpose of having the pension system was to eliminate the administrative burden on the local entities, but it added about 40 pages to your audit, which is kind of contrary to that. So there's pension information in here. Now, you're only on the hook for PERS. For TPAF, the state's on the hook, okay? But we still have to disclose what the value is that the district received in terms of what the state paid on behalf of the Monroe School District, as well as what the long-term liability is. They're absolutely enormous numbers, okay? But you're not on the hook for them, okay? They appear in the state's audit, okay? The other thing is the PERS, which you are on the hook for. Those numbers are in here well, and that's not a lot of people compared to the district, okay? Then there's the health benefits for TPAF people that appears in here, and that's also paid for. But it's required, and I'll show you when I get to that point. We have to disclose it because they want you to see what it really costs to run the district. Even though you're not paying for it, you still get the benefit of it, okay? So basically, we have a clean opinion, okay? Another thing that we do too, that we spend a lot of time on, you submit the ASSA, the application for state school aid, done on October 15th of every year. I don't know whether there's any benefit to be derived from it, but we verify the attendance registers, okay? We verify 100% when we count every kid to make sure it's all there. We also look at IEPs, okay, make sure that if you claim that there's 1,000, we'll make sure there's 1,000. We will only look at a minimum, maybe not a minimum, we'll look at a certain percentage of them, we're required to. Okay, we also look at the free and reduced applications, which, by the way, is becoming lesser and lesser since a lot of kids are direct certified or they're SNAP or whatever. So it's really only the applications where the parents have to actually file the form, and there might be like a little higher risk in terms of whether they fill it out properly or not. So we check those. So we do have good results from the ASSA enrollment counts. Okay. What else?
Some sort of an aid dependent on the ASSA. Is it say some part of
Yeah,
the
they look
fund,
at
the grants?
the enrollment numbers from the ASSA.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
But you don't,
There's no benefit.
superintendent, we were in that meeting with the
Mhm.
investor,
You don't
I
get,
wanted to jump, I couldn't jump in, we don't really get any aid,
You don't.
so that's another topic, right? We get special ed and transportation, but, you know, none of the other stuff. So in this document, the notes to financial, it just explains a lot of the accounting requirements that the district required to follow, which you do. Okay, your software is set up that follow school board accounting. The internal records are set up to follow all the school board procedure. We also look at other things too, like we'll look at transportation contracts, we'll look at tuition contracts, we'll look at unused sick and vacation. It's all part of a standard audit. I don't know, again, I don't speak for other firms, but I know what I do, okay? So we often disclose a lot of information in here about that. You'll see there's a lot of numbers in here about post-retirement. It's just a big thing now in the industry because of what has happened over the years with the pensions and all the different deals that are cut in terms of what you get when you retire. So, but it all is based on discount rate, federal discount rate and various actuarial assumptions, mortality rates. It's morbid, but it's all built into the projection.
Are you randomly, for that particular section, are you randomly looking at the entire stuff, or are you only looking at the ones that are retiring that year?
We don't We don't look at that at all. The state does that.
Okay, so
Okay.
those numbers that you have in the report are for what set of data, like what cohort of the,
They call it the measurement date, okay, and it's, based on June 30th of 2023 numbers,
okay,
okay, but we're allowed to disclose it. You have 366 days to utilize the data, okay? Actually, several years ago, a lot, I mean, especially with this, the audits were always late because the division of pension,
Always late.
it was always late in putting out the numbers, and they blamed it on COVID, they blamed it on lack of cooperation from some of the districts, because they had to do a whole statistical study of the whole thing. But now they seem to be, it's all actuarial based, so we don't know who the people are, but
okay,
they have a census, they know how many people you have who are 42 years old, how many are 53 years old. We don't have that, that's all confidential. So in the end, we have a document that is joint venture with us and the board. Technically, all these numbers inside of this document are representations of the board, okay? And also built into here is a lot of statistical information about Monroe Township, okay? And since you're participating in the ESIP program and gonna issue a document, whoever's looking at us on Wall Street or wherever, financial, they're gonna look at this, okay? They're gonna see, and, you know, it's population information, rateable information, taxpayers, top taxpayers, the quality of your taxpayers in terms of how big is big. So you have a nice mix here, okay?
a lot of information.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but sometimes it's not putting it together, because I have to draw from different sources, you know, town hall, and they're usually pretty cooperative, I guess, that's for information. I get information from the county, we get information from other places, and we kind of put it all together. And the person who really is the biggest participant in this is our secretaries, because they're the ones that bang out a lot of this information. So we also issue a smaller document, okay, that is really everything I've spoken about, all the positive results is encapsulated in that document, okay? But I wanted to just go to one page to, if you go to, I don't know if anyone has it here or not, but if you go to page 194, okay? It talks about your main operating fund. Is it 104? Yeah, it's 104. 104, okay. From page 93 on, it has your budget to actual for revenues, okay? And it has your budget to actual for expenditures, okay? And to be truthful, you know, again, the numbers are lifted right off of the software that we're provided with. We verify the numbers, we tie them in, and usually what we do, I think this year, we kind of verify the numbers by the middle of the summer, rather than waiting until December, okay, to, you know, to do it, because some places, they can't get it together, and it's hard, and they get a surprise in the middle of January that, oops, we only have $1 million. Well, in January, that's no good. You kind of need to know in August or thereabouts, as your budget is a year-round process, so. And in Exhibit C1 on page 103, though, with your actual expenditures, including these payments that they make on behalf of the district for TPF, it costs about $168 million to run the district, even though your budget might only be 140, okay? But they make us put those in. They make us recognize the expense and the related revenue, so as to show the proper cost to run the district. So as a result of all the smoke, when all the smoke clears, you end up with the fund balance, which is your internal records, which is really what you operate with, okay? And it's got several components. It's on C104. You have unemployment reserve of 115,000. You have encumbrances of 99,000. You have excess surplus earmarked for the 24-25 budget of $1.4 million. You have excess surplus as a result of your operations from 23-24 earmarked for 25-26. By statute, it's earmarked. You don't really have an option to play around with, okay? And it's locked in for the software. We prepare an electronic version of this that we're the only ones allowed to make the changes. It's locked into that already, and I'm sure you see that on it.
And that's $1.4 million.
That's 2.9. The $1.4 million,
Is for.
basically, on July 1 of 24, the $1.4 million left over from 22-23 is gone. Once you adopt your budget and open.
Oh, it's gone, right.
It's gone.
2.9 is the one.
2.9 is for,
25,
July 1 of 25, it's part of your revenue, and in my mind, it's gone. It is. And then, you have a little capital reserve of 23,000. You have assigned, which was additional fund balance that you appropriated to balance your budget for 24, 25 of $1,750,000. Okay, so, and then you have your, what's called the unassigned, which is the 2% maximum you're allowed to keep in reserve. Okay, so that's 3.2 million. All right, but that's there. The state doesn't want you to go over that. Okay, so, it's there. I guess maybe there's some benefit to maybe not overusing it, because, you know, once you use a very high level of fund balance, sometimes it's hard to stay on that plateau. Okay,
A layman question, so what you just said, the 3.2, is that what we would call the bank cap? Or no?
No.
When you say you're allowed to go up to 2%?
right, that's actually, it used to be called the free balance,
Free
but
balance,
it's not free anymore. You used to be able to appropriate a long time ago
no,
from your fund balance. You can't do that anymore unless you have an extraordinary.
that's it for the reserve,
What's that? That's your reserve.
that's
Yeah.
our reserve.
Yeah, and it's all statutory, it's all formula driven, there's no magic to any of it. Some districts circumvent it by, or they have excess of money, they start loading money into their capital reserve, into their maintenance reserve. You're fortunate that you don't have to do that, okay? So, I mean, some of them, they don't, all of a sudden we got this money, what are we gonna do with it? Well, they put it in their capital reserve and then spend it in the next subsequent budget year. So, but you don't have that problem. So that's really the basic number. And what I normally don't do is I don't really say the total number because it scares people. And by the way, the components are actually broken down and some, like, and by now, most of it's gone. I mean, you're 8 months into the fiscal year, it's gone. So it might look like a big number on June 30th, but when you open the door the next day, it's gone. So basically we have, also too, you don't really get a lot of grants. You get state aid, but the grant money you get, it has all been properly complied with. And also we do want to acknowledge everybody in all the offices was very cooperative to us. Okay, and when we asked a question, we got an answer. When we needed an invoice, we got it pulled. Okay, so it was, and that's actually a good audit environment. It's where we have to wait for 3 weeks or something. Like you start to get nervous, like, well, does it exist or are they writing it? That didn't happen here, so.
All right.
No, that's important. It's, and not to go too far back in history, but back in 2003, when I first came here, it was a highly aggressive, BA wing, and he had it set up, so, oh yeah, you can come in here anytime you want, pull anything off the shelf, it'll be all there. So it's kind of a good system here. Makes it a very conducive audit environment.
That's wonderful.
So in the end, we have no recommendations, and there's really no comments. Usually, the Department of Ed gets after you if you have a hint of negativism in our management report. Advisory, by the way, just for the record, that thinner document is actually our representation to the board. Okay, but I covered most of the stuff in there. So yeah, I mean, we're very happy to have been involved this year with the audit, and it was the records are good, and we're happy. We give a clean opinion.
Yeah, the 10-point recommendations are all none, so.
Right. But if there were any, we would have had a meeting earlier than this. But so the audit itself was filed on time, January 15th. And the audit sum was filed on a ridiculous date. January 1st is the due date, but we filed it, I think, right before Christmas. Why January 1st? I don't question the department that was, I don't know what are they gonna do with it on January 1st? Or 2nd or 3rd, so.
Well, I know you were supposed to come here in February, and thank you for rescheduling. We had to cancel the finance committee.
It's no problem at all, and I'll be here Monday night.
Yes.
Okay.
For the
That'd be
public
great.
presentation, yes.
Thank you.
Anybody has any questions?
So now, but for the public, I'm not gonna go as deep as it, this is really for the benefit of the finance committee, and, then again, any questions or problems, just give me a yell, I'm not far away, and I'm actually happy to be here. I had eye surgery last Thursday.
Looking at that.
And, oh yeah, I can't take this off until the bubble goes away in my eye, so it was scary.
Thank you for making it happen. Thank you for.
When I was in the pre-op, they took my blood pressure, and the nurse says, I said, is that a 9? She goes, what do you mean? He said, 195/89. She was, that's called the white coat.
Oh, white coat syndrome.
Yeah.
She was scared, it's
Oh,
fresh.
I was like, that's a 9. Yeah,
You just scared me.
I was scared the heck out of me. But it was quick, it was painless.
And you're here.
So,
Thank you.
We appreciate the support of the board and,
We look forward to.
thankful to the finance office and all
Wonderful.
the people. Yeah, that's what really makes it. I mean, you would never know if I did a great audit or not. I would know that your people do good work, so.
Yeah.
No, take care. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice seeing you again. in
Okay,
person.
so, she did good at the meeting.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I still thought it was, wow.
So if people don't know, we talked about, we did have a bond rating meeting with Standard & Poor's, and they asked me if I would be present, and we discussed whether or not I would be speaking, and as those of you know, I tend to speak, so I did.
When I'm there.
Well, I guess.
It went very well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, the second item on the agenda is a discussion, is a crucial conversation on the Falcon Care tuition. I have Mrs. Corolla here to take this discussion on. All yours, Mr. Corolla.
Thank you. I'm here tonight to briefly talk about a price increase for Falcon Care. And when I say Falcon Care, it does not mean the half-day.
Would you mind speaking a little bit louder?
Sure, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
thank you.
So we're talking about Falcon Care, the before and after, not the half-day ECE program. That pricing is going to remain the same. It's under $500, it's $493. That's the half-day dinner. We're talking about the before and after care. Since COVID, we've had lower enrollment due to a lot of work from home and also multi-generational households. We have a lot of grandparents living with families and they take care of the children. So that's a big difference that we've seen pre-COVID and post-COVID. We've been operating at a loss. ECE helps to balance that. But when we go to full-day kindergarten, we certainly can't continue to run a service that's going to drain financial resources from the district. So we definitely need to raise our prices to at least break even or make a profit to give back to the kids. We want to be able to care for our students without taking away these important resources. And it is an important service, especially on the half days when we do have a lot of half days. And
Early dismissal days.
early dismissal. So a lot of parents rely on us to have their child for the full day. We have a lot of dropouts. So we think it's important to continue running the service, but we do need to increase our prices.
So I'm going to reiterate, we are only talking about before and after care.
Correct.
The ECE program, which is for our kindergarten kids, is not going to be touched in the discussion. It's only before and after care.
Correct.
And would either of you care to comment on our numbers last year so that members of the public and the members of the board know what the financials for this program, the before and after care, the Falcon Care was last year?
Yeah, the Falcon Care ended the year with a $54,000 loss. So in order to break even, based on last year's numbers, we would increase it by 11.6%, to go higher so that we are,
In the black,
we're looking at maybe 20%.
20%.
A very important aspect of this conversation is that we are looking to go as soon as possible to full day kindergarten.
Yes.
Which means we will, and right now ECE is a big revenue source for the board. We will lose that revenue source. So that was helping us offset this loss that we saw, $55,000.
But there will be no ability to offset once we go to.
And we should not see any loss. This should be a revenue generating services before and after care, which is an extra service that we're providing to our families. So I would open it up for any questions or, comments. You guys, everybody has the second sheet is the previous year's current numbers, and the first sheet is the numbers that are being proposed. Would you like to read it out just to give everybody a comparison, because people can't see this if they didn't hear the meeting though?
Okay, so would you like to hear the prices that we want to change to?
Yes.
Okay, so for 5 days a week for morning care would be $195 per month. For afternoon care until 6 PM would be $432 per month. And afternoon care until 6:30 PM would be $554. So people that go for that monthly tuition, when we have a half day, we do not, or early dismissal, we do not charge them additional fees. If they're already enrolled on a monthly basis and that early dismissal day winds up on the day that they're already enrolled for, there is no additional fee. We do offer drop-in services, which a lot of parents utilize for the early dismissal day. That would be, if they drop in on early dismissal until 4 o'clock, that would just be $30.
That's on the bottom.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's.
No,
on
no,
the
I
bottom.
wanted to say that's on the bottom of the sheet.
Okay.
And then if it was a half-day drop-in until 6:30, it would be $60. I think these are all reasonable. If you look at a regular babysitting rates, people get like $20 an hour. And I forget what the break, I know, I wish I was. I forget what the breakdown is per hour for care. I can do it quickly. If it's 5, well, actually, we'll do it another time.
Would you care to comment on what our neighboring towns? I believe you have looked into.
So I did, I looked at a few neighboring towns and our pricing is around the same, but we offer a lot more that a lot of towns do not.
What exactly?
Yeah, like what?
Because we give flexibility. We allow 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 days per week. A lot of towns will have you just do a flat rate.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of towns will not allow lower than 3 days per week because it's not worth their time.
So they have a minimum, whereas we do not.
Correct, correct. It's the same with before care. A lot of towns, when I had my daughter signed up in East Brunswick, we couldn't go just for 1 day. It had to be a certain amount of weeks before care.
I know I might be digressing a little, but offering that flexibility of the number of days, is that a resource challenge for you ever? Like,
No,
do they have to, let you
We don't-
know in advance?
yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
it's not like for this month, I'm only keeping my child for 1 day, next month, I'm gonna keep my child there for 5 days.
No, it's fine.
Okay,
Because we always have at least 2 staff members on site.
right.
So unless we get a ridiculous number of children, we wouldn't get that kind of a drop. And we're always prepared. They let us know in advance.
If it's not challenging for us, then it's a good thing that we offer.
I think it's one of us, it's very accommodating.
Definitely. It's an important service, and I think Mill Lake is our biggest enrollment. We have 54 in the afternoon sometimes, and that site, they have a lot of fun. You can ask any Mill Lake parents. They will tell you that they have a wonderful program over there. So our biggest site, I think, is due to the fact that it's a great program, but also that's the area that needs the most aftercare.
Okay.
But they're doing great.
Anybody have any concerns with the raise in? Does the committee feel comfortable recommending this move ahead to the board?
I think it's warranted.
Yes, it is. It is. You're
Don't
not,
obviously want to be losing any money.
you cannot lose it.
Yeah, I agree.
And we want to continue that service because it is important for the parents. We certainly can't continue it if we're going to lose money.
Will this take effect now or next school year? How does this thing work?
That'll be for 25, 26.
So,
September.
September.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until the end.
So, and which is nice for notification for parents, and they make decisions.
Enough time.
About a time, amount of time.
Hop around there.
Absolutely.
Still this whole summer. I can put the numbers up on the website once the board approves so that they'll be able to look in the next few weeks. And then if they have to make other arrangements, they can.
we could have this added to the agenda on Monday.
100%.
Yes, and just to reiterate, this is, the reason we are having this discussion is because this was the loss-making program last year, and we cannot afford to, well, ECE did help us last year, but it should never be a loss-making program. This should always, it's a service we are providing to our parents who are working and cannot be home to, pick a child up in time. We will recommend that the board consider this in Monday meeting. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah.
The next item on the agenda is a discussion on the budget timeline. Laura, it's all yours.
So on Monday, March 17th, we will have at the Board of Education meeting, we will have the budget presentation. On March 19th, 2 days after, is the last day to file with the count. May 5th, at the Board of Education meeting, we will have the budget hearing. And then that will be due to the county on May 14th. That's the deadline to adopt the budget. So there is, quite a bit of time between the March 19th, 17th meeting and the May 5th meeting for any, changes, any,
Why would we have it in, April? Why are we
We
skipping?
do not have an April meeting. That if you
So
look at
there's
the,
no,
there is
that
no
why?
board meeting in April because we're having it early May, 5th May.
okay,
And so we have a meeting 17th March
okay.
and.
We were trying to accommodate, spring break happens to be in the middle.
Okay.
And between Good Friday and the Passover and then the Easter break,
Okay, so
close,
it's- yeah.
we are gonna have our committee meetings at the end of April, which will allow us to have a very early May meeting, so that April, anything needs to be done in April can be done very early in May.
Okay,
That was the logic.
thank you.
So the public will have the opportunity to see the presentation.
On Monday.
Do we call it the preliminary budget on 17th of March, or do we call it the budget?
No, that's the budget.
It's a budget presentation on 17th of March. And then there's enough time, even for the public, not just us. Board
Yes.
members,
Between then and May 5th.
where the public hearing is. So public comments can continue to come in through emails or phone calls to the district, but the public hearing is on May 5th.
And maybe we'll say that again during the formal board meeting, during the
And,
presentation.
yes, and May 14th is when we have to submit it back. So we have some time in that too. Any questions on the timeline? I'm sure all of us already kind of knew this. I did get confused given what our schedule was last year. So it was,
And that is dictated by the state.
yeah.
A lot of the state, that's why we picked a Monday, and that's how we.
Okay.
As everybody knows, in February, we got the stated numbers. So Laura, would you mind sharing all of our numbers with the committee?
Yes, so, transportation aid, we had an increase of 150,892. So it went from 3.999 million to 4.1 million. That's basically due to the cost coefficients for the per pupil base and the mileage, increasing, 3.5%. Security aid, we had an increase of $283,000. So it went from 681,000 to 964,000. And that was because, they increased the per pupil amount 46%. Special education aid, we had a decrease, of $400,000. So it went from 7.5 million to almost 7.2 million. And that's, they raised the per pupil cost 5.9%, but they changed, the way the formula is calculated. And before it was based on the statewide average of students, special education students. Now it's census-based, so it's based on our actual number of special education students, which is less than what we were getting as the statewide average. So that is why, unfortunately, that did decrease, that did not help us. They are saying that the extraordinary aid amount that we normally get, what was budgeted for the state level is flat. So we can probably anticipate getting a little bit less, less than we got last year because it's the same amount to be spread across every district, and costs are going up. So, every year they prorate that amount, determine the costs that are applicable, and then they prorate it and then prorate it again. So we get much less than what we would the actual cost. So the proration amount is probably going to be even less this year.
And that's the number we find out in July.
Yes, we don't find out the amount until July,
July.
after the.
But it came, so last July we received 400,
Yeah, so we got 800 and,
we're anticipating, yeah.
$24,000 for the year, so we had budgeted almost, just slightly under 400,000, so the extra 400,000 was unanticipated.
So if luck is on our side and we end up getting, well, if it stays flat, if we get what we got last year, are you saying that we budgeted for less and that would be in excess in
We
revenue?
always budget for less.
We do,
Well,
okay.
Because you just never know what you're gonna get. So historically, it's been, just the, this same number, this number hasn't really changed, this $397,000. I believe it is, we budget that same amount every year, so any excess is, good down, I don't know if over budget.
So I found your explanation for the increase in transportation very interesting. So there was a reason behind it. It wasn't that they just blanket increase that. So that is also being specific to the town.
Every
With the
town gets
mileage.
the same amount.
The mileage not increase.
Yeah, if they're the same.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear.
Would you like to come closer?
Well, like, speak louder.
We don't have microphones for
He
the.
trails off, and words get trailed off, sorry. Yes.
So you mentioned that it's based on the mileage that increased and the cost of something.
So the mileage rate and the base amount for the people.
Okay.
base rate. So,
But the pupil base rate is different for every district.
no, they give you the same amount, no. So it's based on the same amount for every district, but it's the number of students.
Correct.
Okay.
So the more students you have, the more money you get in transportation aid, the less students you have, the less money you get.
And yeah, and the students that are being transported, so
Okay.
sometimes it's a.
Gotcha.
calculation based on that.
But the other numbers are the same, so that's the one thing that is the same. For all districts.
Right, right. And
Well, no, in special education, the base amount is the same, just depends on how many students you have.
And in the past, were all the districts getting, no, they were all getting different numbers for the special ed aid, right? We were getting 7.5 because of our student population based on an average number
Based on the
multiplied.
statewide average, yes.
But now that
But
multiplied,
they still, yeah, so it's not based on the statewide average anymore, it's based on our actual.
Our individual actual matriculation of special education students. So it's a loss for us.
I did understand that it's a loss, but what I'm trying to understand is that in the years past, another town was getting as much as Monroe now, right? Because if it's a statewide average,
It's prorated, so, yeah, so we would have, so it's like, what's the last?
that average is per student, Dr. Shannon? Right. And so they would multiply that per student average with our special ed population.
Now they actually say which one of the children are classified under special
It was
education.
a percentage based on like if our FTE resident enrollment, they said it was 15.9%. Based on that, they would take a per pupil amount.
Okay.
Everybody had the same per pupil amount. What your,
And that's been the biggest change in our,
and unfortunately, yeah, normally, like, when they calculate the special education amount, it's a very high number, but 2/3 of it goes to the equalization aid calculations, which we don't get.
Don't get.
So we lose out on that whole.
continue to lose out. We continue
We
to.
continue with that. And if you notice, when you see the numbers that she provided, so the increase in transportation aid and the increase in security, aid, if you add those two together, and then you minus off the money that we lost from special education,
So
so wash.
our net increase was
$33,000.
$33,000.
Yep.
Yeah, per day, but you know what, we expected to lose.
But we'll take it.
We expected to lose.
Right, we went in with the apprehension that we
Yes.
will lose state aid
Oh,
this year given them, and
I thought we'd get a little
so the $33,000 are,
more, please.
are a silver lining, still in the cloud, because our cloud is all about.
Like, we can't lose.
Yeah.
We can't
Couldn't
do anything.
We still, that cloud is still about the equalization aid. I still feel like
That we
we
get
had
nothing.
hopes there would, some potential.
And even when we met with the
We just said it,
commissioner,
let's-
he said, he goes, you probably will never get it.
And what,
And you're getting.
Don't you correct?
Okay.
so in that meeting and in the meeting where our stakeholder or our representatives came in person, they said that Monroe pays its fair share, and it is, they do believe it's appropriate, and that we will not get equalization aid. So we were told basically by everybody that we would not get equalization aid,
So our,
which is a very large amount of money in many, many districts.
Yes, which we can't stop harping about, but all that means is our advocacy work needs to continue full, full steam forward for that aspect of state aid that we're missing. But that's all our numbers, right? So all in all, compared to what other school districts have been seeing, many have lost up to 3% in their aid. We should feel, we should take a sigh of relief that we didn't lose aid. Anybody has any questions on this state aid? All right. The next item on the agenda is a monthly review of the attorney fees. We had 5 invoices. We have the Bush Law Firm invoices for December, January, and February. I'm just gonna read out those big numbers for Bush Law Firm. We have the month of February, which was the most recent one, was 12,299. The month of January was 11,352, and the month of December was 19,927. This is our current attorney, which is the Bush Law Firm. The other 2 invoices were from Porzio for the month of December and January.
January, February.
No, I think it's
December, January.
January, I'm looking at January, February. I don't know if maybe I'm
okay, I
correct.
think the agenda said December and, oh, maybe you're right. I'm sorry.
No, I apologize.
No, so Porzio, it says December and
Oh, but on the actual invoice.
Voice, it says
the
January.
date to Porzio is sending us.
Oh, I see what it is.
later, but it's for the month of,
You're correct.
yeah, so
I
for
stand
the
corrected.
month of December, it was $24,500 and change, and for the month of January, it was $11,600. And I want to remind everybody, we are working with Porzio only for open cases that they were handling before we changed the law firm. And based on the numbers that I just read out, everybody realizes that we're literally paying 2 attorneys and almost the same amount of money when one is handling the bulk of the work. And it's just because we have so many legal cases, and I just want to make a public plea out right now as a chair of finance that this is money that is being used for a whole lot of cases, some small, some big, some that are beyond our control because these are historical cases, and some that are probably in some of our controls where we can think about it that if your case has been going on, if you have filed a case against the board and it's been going on a long time, what is the end result? What's the end goal that you're looking for? Because our insurance only covers $5,000.
Depends, 5 or 10.
And then over that, it's going out of our operating budget. It is definitely money that could be used for better for student success. I am not saying that the board should not be questioned and the wrong should not be corrected. But we all need to understand what the end result or the goal of that case that you have filed is, and think about where that money is going and where it could go. Anybody else have any comments on the attorney invoices? We'll move on to the bill list. We have about $7.3 million so far on the bill list. I'm assuming there's an addendum coming soon for the meeting. This time the meeting's Monday, so we'll probably see the addendum
Friday.
this Friday.
Friday.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the bill list? I did have a question that I asked Laura earlier, and we had a quick discussion on that, and Dr. Shanley came up with a great suggestion on that. There was a payment, a bond payment that was made for $2.9 million in this bill list that happened between the meetings. These are,
Pre-schedules.
pre-approved by the board in some ways, but just to ensure that we are kind of approving each one of these in advance and not between, because we know what these are going to be. The board office is going to come up with a with the schedule with the amount in it, and we will probably approve it in one of the meetings earlier on in the year, so that even though they're happening between meetings, it still has, a
Prior
board
notice.
vote. There's a board vote that has already happened on that meeting. Besides that, any other questions on the bill list? Excellent. We are over, but thank you, Mr. Pirro, for pushing the BG&T timing.
No problem.
Thank you, Laura.
No problem.
Congratulations on a great audit, the entire board office. I know
Laura did a
Laura,
great job.
it's a Herculean task to get it done, but we started a little later this year because I think we only approved in July, right? Yes, but it all got done, and congratulations on the good.
Excellent job there.
Thank you.
And that concludes our finance meeting for tonight.